Today, we are discussing the fall push. The summer market is coming to a close, and we are entering the fall market, and that means a lot of changes for the marketplace. This is LARICY Live, and I'm your host, Matt LARICY. We are giving you unfiltered access to the world of real estate, where we cover the market trends, the news, and honest answers to keep you ahead of the real estate game. LARICY Live is brought to you by Lincoln Title. Lincoln Title is the best and most efficient title company in Chicago and the best place to close your property. LARICY Live is also brought to you by Guaranteed Rate and Ben Cohen. Ben is the #1 lender in Illinois and can close your loan as fast as 8 days. So the first question is, what exactly is the fall push? Well, the end of the summer market tends to be kind of bad. It's not as strong as a lot of people think. A lot of people think June, July, and August are like gangbuster months, but in reality, they're not as strong as the front part of the year. In fact, sometimes they're pretty tough. They're you got people traveling, people are going on vacations. A lot of people have work things they got going on. They're going to beaches, they're day drinking, wedding season, whatever it is. Now, then, when everybody gets done and settled down, call it like the week before Labor Day, people kind of start realizing, like, crap, like, we're heading into fall. I spent all my money doing summer cool stuff, and my social life and calendar is kind of coming to a close. So maybe I got to refocus on housing. And we see a nice little push and a kind of drastic increase in showing activity in the fall, and we've dubbed this the fall push. So it's where the market kind of all of a sudden gets a nice little push into at the end of the year until we hit the holiday season. The market kind of dies down a little bit. So personally, I like the fall push. It's one of my favorite times of the year. You get a nice cooler. It's like hot weather, but not too hot. You start getting a lot of contracts in, and it's just a good feeling. The fall push is just a great feeling. When does it start? I think the fall push starts right before Labor Day. The week before Labor Day, the push officially begins. Then Labor Day sucks, I get it. And then it really just kind of takes off like a rocket ship. So maybe for some people it gets say right after Labor Day, but I feel like it really starts the week after or the week before Labor Day, because that's when the summer market ends. How does it differ from the summer market? Honestly, the early fall market's better than the end of summer market. So you do see a little bit more action, we'll call it, more contracts happen at the fall push than you do at the end of the summer. And if we compare that to the spring market, the fall push is better than the end of summer, about even as the beginning of summer, and it's nowhere near as strong as the spring market. I would say you probably have maybe 35 to 40% less traffic and contracts during the fall push as you do during like the initial kind of spring wave. But spring wave, you know what? I think I'm gonna start using that. I've never used that terminology before, but it just kind of came out here. So we'll dub the start of the year the spring wave. But the fall push is not going to be as big as the spring wave. But honestly, it's a solid little push at the end of the year. It's like it gives you a little chip in your step. You're like, man, I thought the market was going to die down. A lot of agents check out for the back 4 months, and it's kind of like nice little push. And it's not going to compare to the spring or summer or the beginning of the summer, but it's still a solid market. How many showings on average you get in the fall compared to the spring or summer? Let's just use easy numbers. Let's say we get 50 showings on a Saturday at the height of the spring. We might get 30 showings at the height of the summer market, and we'll get maybe 20 to 25 showings at the start of the fall push on a Saturday. So, you're looking at roughly half the showings during the spring wave or the fall push compared to the spring wave, and just down a little bit from the initial summer. But I will tell you, the end of summer, let's call the end of summer July 4th to Labor Day, the fall push is definitely stronger than those markets. Typically speaking, now could it change this year? I'm sure, but the reality is it's generally a pretty strong market. How will rates impact the fall push? Rates tend, I shouldn't say 10. Right now, rates are at a 23-year high. Now, by the time this thing comes out and the fall push starts, could they drop? Could they go up? I don't know. The rates right now are kind of like a roller coaster. They're up and down. They're reaching 20 plus year highs. If they keep going up, and let's say they go up to like 10%, which, I mean, it's possible, right? It's also possible to go to 5. But if they keep going up, I think that'll put a little bit of a plug in the fall push. But let's assume they stay where they're at or slightly dip, which is what I think is going to happen. I think the market will and the push will happen as we expect it to happen. What kind of buyers do you see during the fall? We see buyers. We see parents buying places for their kids going to school. We see I don't know why, but I see a lot of doctors at this time of year. Not me going to the doctor, but doctors buying. So people in the hospital field, I don't know if it's slower. If anybody out there is in the hospital field, is it slower in the fall? I don't know. Maybe because it's what do they call them, trauma season during the summer, and then where it gets crazy and maybe things die down a little bit. I'm not sure, but I definitely see a lot of people in the doctor medical field. We see a lot of job reloads at this time of year as well, like a lot of job reloads, and then we see people who are trying to get a leg up on next year's market. Like we get a lot of people who say they want to buy in April, and they start looking in September, and then they end up going under contract in September, October to beat the spring wave. So, we are definitely see kind of all types of buyers. Oh, the other big one I forgot: investors. Investors are like my biggest clients during the fall market. A lot of investors think there's a lot more blood in the water, so they tend to be a little bit more active at that time of year. What type of sellers you see in the fall? A lot of relocations, people relocating for work. We see people who are moving out of state. So not just people relocating out of work, but people are like, hey, I'm done with the city, I'm out. We see a lot of people who were overpriced in the spring and summer markets come on. And then just honestly, like people that don't have kids and that are like, own their first place or want to move to the suburbs. Honestly, that they sell during that time. I mean, it's a big city. Like we're not tied to school, so it's not like the fall has as much of an impact on a lot of sellers as it does like in the suburbs. Like in the suburbs, like from my understanding, I mean, I don't sell a lot in the suburbs, but like you don't see as many new listings hit in October or September, October. But like honestly, we're getting like tons of calls right now for people looking to list in September. So. It's still pretty active listing season for us. Are prices higher or lower in the fall? They're typically lower in the fall. I talk about this all the time, is that the real estate market is very much like the stock market. You can't get spring pricing during the fall push. You'll definitely save a little bit of money. But so it's not as good for sellers. But I mean, the upside, for a seller, you're not going to get as much money, but you have less competition, So if you're in a difficult market, like, River North or Streeterville or something like that, like, in fact, somebody called me to list their place in Streeterville, and the New East Side. And I was like, listen, there's nothing on the market in your building. Whereas like 8 months ago, there was 15 units on the market. So, there are some pluses and minuses. It's just, you're not going to get as much money as you would have, if you were in the spring market. What should sellers expect in the fall? Just kind of what we talked about. Are buyers more dramatic? This is going to be a big trend coming. We might even just do a podcast about this, depending on how bad it gets. But I see the most dramatic buyers in the fall time. It's like the Chicken Little syndrome, right? The sky is falling. Everybody says the world's going to end. Oh, I hear 2024 is going to be the year it's going to be over. It's an election year. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. I'm sure this year, this fall, the thing I'm going to hear everybody talk about is how it's an election year, and if so-and-so wins, that the market's going to fail. We always hear people get super dramatic during the fall, and then they use something. If anybody remembers, September till December last year, everybody said that 2023 was going to be a housing recession, and that the market was most likely going to fail, and that prices were going to drop as much as 50% in some areas. That's what everybody. Now, I didn't say this. I mean, if you actually go back and watch my podcast, I said I think these people are idiots, and I came up with my theory that if rates. People are locked into these low rates, what's going to be their motivation to sell? And everybody said I was an idiot, but obviously look who was right. But the reality is that like you're going to see the drama happen, and then guess what's going to happen in 2024? Nothing's going to change that badly. Okay, so we'll talk more predictions as we get closer of what we think is going to happen. But for the time being, we are going to see these dramatic buyers. I am going to have to argue with buyers and sellers probably 6 to 7 times a day, 7 days a week about how 2024 is not going to be the end of the housing market. But during this little fall push, the dramatic buyer is going to come. And once the fall push ends, that's when the dramas are really going to begin. In fact, let's make a note of that. We got to do a podcast about the fall dramatic buyers. Jess, let's mark that down. Fall dramatic buyers. We don't want to forget this, guys. People out there can put their questions down about what kind of drama do we see, and I'll tell you, we got some good ones for that. Do I think the Bears are going to win more or less than 8 wins? I think they'll win less than 8 games. I'm not a football expert, but I don't think they're going to go from a 3-win season to an 8-win season plus. I mean, listen, I hope they do. It's good for real estate. It's good for the city if they win a lot, but I don't see it happening. I also don't know what that has to do with the fall push, but I like that somebody threw the question in here. How does your September compare to October? We definitely have a much better September than October. In fact, typically speaking, August is my second worst month of the year. So I typically have December for closings is normally my worst month of the year, and then August is my second worst month of the year. And then September is one of my best months of the year for contracts pending, like putting places under contract. Although we say that, these are normal cycles, guys. I will tell you that August this year is going to go down, is hands down, the best month I had this year for not only closings, but for contract pendings. In fact, we are, I don't know, maybe $10 million above our second best month for closings in August, which I've never seen. Last August was so bad for us. I was questioning what we were going to do with our business. That's how bad it was. And this August is gangbusters. But for anybody out there that watches some of these podcasts, if people recall, we started the year, like normally January and February are 2 of our best months of the year. And I said that January and February were not as good as we expected. And I said, watch that I think this year is going to be more of a consistent year, where I don't think any month is going to be like out of control or the market's going to like kind of fall off like a nosedive. I thought it was going to be very consistent and that we would make up for sales towards the back half of the year. And we were drastically off pace of last year's sales, and we were slowly but surely making up for it by consistently putting up a little bit more numbers than the month we did before. And if we do that, considering that my October, November, December for closings was, I think, a total of like 25 or 30 million or something total between those 3 months, which for us is really bad. If we beat that, we'll catch up to last year. And I think a lot of agents out there who started the year off a little bit bad and thought that the market was going to be bad, I do think that, we're going to see a nice consistent market, and that ties directly in to the fall push that we're dealing with right now, which I think is going to be a benefit for buyers, sellers, and agents. When would you lower prices on listings that have been sitting through summer? Now? I'll do it absolutely right now. Anytime between now and Labor Day. After Labor Day, there's going to be a ton of new inventory hit the market and a ton more price changes. So if you're thinking about dropping the price, the quicker you do it, the better. When you take your listing off for holidays, 91 days. So whatever 91 days is before the end of the year, because I like to start the year with fresh market time. So I think it's like mid-October or something like that is when we normally take them off. And these are listings that have been sitting for a long time. Now, if I got a listing that's been on the market for, let's say, 2 weeks, I'm not pulling off mid-October, okay? I'm saying if I have a listing that I've had on the market since, call it February or March, which we do have quite a few of those, mid-October I'd pull it off and try next year again. Now, we're going to do a whole podcast on selling during the holidays and strategy for when you pull your listing, so I'm not going to get too much in the weeds on it, but that's just kind of like a little bit of a snippet. Do you think rates will come down next year? 100% I do. I will talk about this in our election podcast that we have coming up, but I will tell you that the people that are in charge are going to be facing some stiff competition from the people who are trying to get in charge. And I don't care who you like or who you support. I'm not going to say any of that. I'm just saying that there's no way that the people in charge are going to have a 23-year high interest rate heading into next year, into an election year of what's going to be an extremely bloody election. So I will personally guarantee that I bet you these rates are going to drastically drop during the heat of the election months. Now, could they go way back up towards the end of next summer and stuff like that? Sure. But I think as we head into prime election season, we're going to see these rates drop, and it's going to be a pure political play. Let's see here. What's the best update to do for places that have been sitting through winter? Kitchen and baths. Kitchen and master baths, or primary baths. That's exactly what you want to do. Update those. Those are the ones that people care the most about. But like, to me, if you got like that Uba Tuba granite with the red cabinets, and you got like the what do they call them, like the blonde floors, I would paint the cabinets white, put in quartz countertops, put in a backsplash, stain the floors with that white oak. Update the bath, and that'll help sell the place faster. And stage it, guys. Stage the place. But like, if you're not selling and we're heading into like the winter months, take it off and do the updates then, and then come on the market fresh. Let's see. What's the busiest months of the fall months? So for the last few months of the year, September is going to be the busiest month. September will hands-on be the busiest, and then every month from there will be a little bit slower than the month before that. Is it better to buy now or wait till 2024? I will tell you right now, the biggest regret you will have is not buying from now to the end of the year. If the rates come down, which I think they will, and with rents being at an all-time high, what do you think is going to happen next year? So if rates drop and your rental prices go up, and it's cheaper for you to buy than it is to rent, how many other people that are going to be like you that are going to be looking to buy their first place between January and let's call it April or May of next year? It's going to be gangbusters. So if you're going to do it, buy when everybody else doesn't want to buy. The best time when you want to win is when there's blood in the water, okay? When everybody looks left, you look right, and that's what it is. If people are telling you you're doing it wrong, then you're doing it right. I could give you a million of these type of examples, guys, but I will tell you this fall market, it's the best time to do it. Every property I've ever bought pretty much has been in the fall as well, just because, it's a good time to get a good price. Can I snag a good deal? Yeah. Listen, you never know when you could get a deal, okay? And what a deal is subjective to everybody, but you definitely have a little bit more power at this time of year, which is nice. You don't have as much pressure. During the fall push, things get active. Heck, I'm in 3 multiple bids right now as we speak on this podcast. So this is the end of the summer, but I can't say you'll get a deal, but you won't pay as much as you will in the springtime. And it's possible that you may have 1 or 2 days to wait to make an offer, rather than during the spring market, you have 1 to 2 hours to wait. What do I do to prepare for the fall? I have 1 million buyers. No, let's not be dramatic. I don't have 1 million. I have, a lot of buyers that got very frustrated at the front part of the year because they were like, listen, the market's too hot. I don't want to overpay for a place. I don't like how many people are bidding on these things, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, then buy in the fall. Like, if you don't like having all this competition, just buy in the fall. You buy in the fall, you have less competition. And guess who's coming out of the woodworks? All my fall buyers. So what I do for my buyers is I prep them and say there's less competition. What I do for my sellers is say, like, hey, listen, if you want to sell during these months, you got to price it correctly. It's all about price. Like, we can, move mountains, but I can't, take something that's worth $400,000 and sell for $1 million. So I set my sellers' expectations who call me, 4 or 5 months ahead of time. It's like, hey, I want to list in October. I'm like, listen, you want to list in October, just know that, like, don't look at March pricing. Look at what sold last October and, compare it to that. So I'm constantly setting the expectations for my buyers and sellers to make sure that ultimately everybody has the best experience they can have. Should I take photos now of my place if I want to list in the winter, outdoor spaces, et cetera? Yeah. Listen, if you're looking to list possibly at the end of the year or beginning of next year, the weather's beautiful. Typically August, September are 2 of your best months of the year for weather. So get all your photos done now so the place will look really nice when you go on the market. Although, I don't know. I kind of like snow photos if it's going to sell somewhat quicker. I've said, it's got a nice look to it. I get it. It's not as mainstream, but like you come on in the winter, right? And you got like this beautiful greenery stuff. I personally, this is just my theory. I'm the only one that thinks like this, but like I personally am like, how long was that place listed? Because it hasn't looked that nice in so long, right? And I get it. We're trying to sell like an idea. But if I see something that kind of looks like really beautiful in the snow and you get like a cool night shot and it's got like that winter look to it, almost like a winter castle, and we go on the market with it, I'm like, okay, this is timely, looks really sick, etc. But I get it. 99.9% of people don't think the way I think. So yeah, if you want the pretty greenery to come out, get your pictures done ASAP. What's one big thing that can impact the fall push? Rates. Rates is a big thing that can impact the push. There's a lot of weird weather shit happening right now, so maybe that could, impact the market. And of course, some political stuff. I mean, we're heading into an election and there's kind of a lot of crazy stuff in the news about it. So that type of stuff. Oh, and the one we just did, the mansion tax that just got, proposed. So those are the biggest ones, but I don't think any of those are really going to have it's going to be so quick where it's going to have a dramatic impact on the market right away. Rates is maybe the only one that could, but I don't think there's one thing that's going to wipe it out today. Last thing is when does the fall push end? Fall push ends right before Thanksgiving. Right before November. So end of October, beginning of November is when the push ends, and then we head into holiday season, which is when Thanksgiving begins, I believe, in November. So I apologize about that misspeak. But yeah, end of October, beginning of November is when the fall push officially kind of ends, and then we're in what I would call the holiday market. So if you got any questions on the fall push or where the market stands, honestly, reach out to us and ask to be subscribed to our Monday updates. Every Monday, we give a big breakdown on what's happening week by week of the true stats of what's actually happening in the marketplace. If you want to know what's really happening, subscribe to our Monday updates. Thanks for listening to LARICY Live.